Alright, as you can see here, this is some type of a painting that was done on a wall in a temple. So what I want to do here is just give my interpretation of what's going on in this image, because it seems pretty interesting. So here's a theory. Right. From what I believe is that above these cartouches, if you know what a cartouche is, you can see there's one that has like a scarab, and it has like a sun above it, and it has like 3 little black squares under it, rectangles, and then a bowl right under it. So so what the surrounding area. Sorry, I can't point and show you what I'm talking about, so you're gonna have to try to figure out what I'm saying. But as you can see, there's, if you know what a cartouche is, you understand what I'm saying. If you look at to the right or the left, you'll see what looks like vultures, and they're carrying what looks like a empty cartouche is what I call it. It looks like an empty cartouche. So it'll be circular because it's empty, right? The reason it'll be more of a oblong shape would be because you filled it up with something. So it goes from circular to what you see the cartouche look like. So I just see the similarities there, which is why I'm making that point. So that's probably what it is. So this was going to be a little interesting, especially if you play shooting games. So it looks like the cartouches, right, are filled with something. So it makes it seem like they're containers. They're meant to be. They're made for the purpose of putting something in it, and they tend to be small, and then they get big, kind of like an indicator of something empty versus something that's full. So you notice the vultures are carrying the empty, cartouches, which means they, will eventually at some point be filled with something. What if? And if you look at top of the cartouches, you will see what's known as I believe that's what this is a winged sun disk. You'll notice it's like a circular orange-like or reddish circle that's supposed to be representative of a sun or sun disk. And I've seen some depictions of sun disk, which, essentially it's something circular with like wings. So that's what it looks like on top of these cartouches, is these sun discs with their wings retracted. So they're not the wings are not out, which means they're not flying. They're not flying or being used to fly. They're put away, a lot like what a bird would do, put their wings away, and then they put the wings out when they're going to fly. So clearly these cartouches are not being deployed yet. So that's my theory. So then, if you, like I said, shooting games, you know the concept of a supply drop, and that's what this looks like. It looks like the cartouches, because up here it shows you the vultures with the empty cartouches, right? And over here in the middle, you see the cartouches filled with items, or at least that's what it looks like, right? These symbols seem to represent items like the Ankh and some other symbols, even animals, like the scarab and whatnot. And they're not yet have been flown, but once they do fly, right, that's what's going to happen. So this kind of looks like, a depiction of the concept of an airdrop, like, a supply drop, like, because another thing that gives the idea that this is a depiction of the concept of a supply drop is the fact that you have what looks like warriors, most of them looking like black people, and even Asian people all the way in the far left. If you look close, looks like maybe a Mongolian warrior. And then you have these Egyptian head jackal-like bodies, which gives me the idea that these might be I like the idea of saying that this is a representation of them in their beast mode, like for combat purposes. So these are like elite warriors, so they're currently, in beast mode. Not that they're physically, animal with human heads, like some type of genetic hybrid. This is just a artistic representation of the idea that they're in their beast mode, right? These are the elite, warriors going out there. And as you can see, there's two of them, and they're pretty much just single-handedly beating up forces by themselves. Beast mode, right? The idea of a one-man army type of concept. So this could be a depiction of that idea of elite warriors. So maybe they had clothing, armaments, combat gear that made them look animalistic. So it will look like maybe they had clothing that made them look like lions, tigers, jackals, whatever. In this depiction, I'm assuming these are supposed to be bodies of jackals. So maybe their battle gear just made them look animalistic, like they had the head of a human on a animal's body, because that could have been literally their combat suits, right? Their battle gear. So then it gives you like Warzone type of vibes or something, or it just gives you the idea of like Spartan or anything like that, like shooting games where you might have armored equipment, and of course it makes you a badass, right? So this could be a depiction of that concept. So I'm just trying to give something that people can relate to right now. So this seems like, I mean, if I was in ancient times and I was drawing this, this is pretty much what the concept would be like. I'm representing that, I'm representing the idea that like, hey, yeah, these are supply drops, and obviously we will be flying them out there. I even had the idea that the sun discs, what they really were, and the possibility of what they were in the past, was that they were maybe kites, probably made of actual like vulture feathers or something like that. That's why you see the images of vultures, but on top of the cartouches you see what looks like something artificial, a circular disc with with feather-like or wing-like objects on them. You may even see the similarities on the heads of these pharaoh, Egyptian heads. They have what kind of looks like some exaggerated version of the little winged sun disc. So further giving the impression that they had some form of high-tech technology, which allowed them to, as you can see, kind of battle with our weapons. Because you see in the image, it depicts like, yeah, we just went out there and we just started kicking ass, and we didn't need weapons. Now you can kind of see that what's being attacked, these people under these jackal human Egyptian images, right, kind of gives the impression that they fought them bare hand. They somewhat had technology, which is pretty much what they wore, whatever. Maybe they just, or just the idea that they didn't necessarily need to carry their weapons or equipment, right? It was kind of more like a beast of burden thing, where they had either they had actual vultures. That could be another possibility. They actually trained vultures to literally carry their supplies for them, kind of like how we use donkeys and stuff like that. It's the term of beast of burden, is when you use an animal to carry stuff for you, like an elephant or a camel or something. Or in this depiction, technically vultures doing supply drops or airdrops or whatever you want to call it. So just just an idea, an interesting interpretation. Because if you look at this image based off of what I was saying, it kind of makes sense. At least it gives an idea of what this is depicting. I don't know for 100% for a fact. I am looking at a lot of these images to kind of get some ideas of technology. What they used back then. What they considered technology and whatnot, and the possibility that a lot of what we see in these images are actually depiction of technology, of what they use as technology, right? Because when you really look at it, it's like okay, you got birds, you got the head of a human on an animal body. Like, it seems a little weird when you think of it like way too literal. like, oh my god, that's actually a human head on an animal's body. When you take it way too literal, as opposed to seeing it as, okay, this is just an artistic representation of, like I'm saying, beast mode, or the use of technology, equipment, that they design and fashion that gives them the ability to, at least against their enemies, to appear, you know, more animal than human, make them more fearful. Kind of like a man dressed as a bat. Batman. You get my point. So this could literally been, could be what this is really depicting. It's not like a genetic hybrid. Now, what if that was the case? What if they did do some animal human genetic hybrid type thing? You know what I mean? Okay, so let's go with that idea. The things on the heads of these, human jackals. I'll just call them that. Human jackals. Um, what if they maybe they did some genetic experiments and they kind of got this? Maybe it's the idea that they kind of, I don't know, it's kind of be weird, right? That they bred these jackals with human, right, and created maybe some human jackal hybrids. I mean, I doubt that worked out, but I'm just saying maybe they figured out a way to make it work out. Hey, to each their own. I don't know what they did in the past. I'm just assuming, but let's say they managed to figure out a way to combine human DNA with animal DNA, and created some what they call it, war dogs. War dogs. Created some combat, animals, right, and send them out there. And that could be a possibility. That's more, theoretical in that idea of them being genetically modified warriors. Instead of the breeding concept, maybe what if the idea was is that maybe these were soldiers that they imbued with, like, they were trying to make them more powerful by giving them maybe the blood of an animal, right? Having them drink, animal blood, and now they have that, DNA, right, of the animal. So now it technically makes them, gain the power of the animal. So this might be a representation of that. Like they created something that kind of, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They probably, did that, right? They probably took some animals, fed their soldiers, meat and blood and whatever from the animals they slaughtered, and then that was a way of a way of like, here, now since it's in your body, it's part of who you are now for this combat you're gonna do. So now you are currently in beast mode or something, just through that. So that could be another interpretation of the idea. Another thing which originally was trying to get to was the things on the head could be like a way of controlling them, like some type of mind controlling device. And this was, would be a way to kind of like control the animal. So it could be like they found a way to use regular animals. Let's go with this idea, just regular animals, right? Like maybe they had jackals or something, I don't know, or some type of dogs, right? Some type of animal that they can, and they found a way to control it control it, right? With a human controlling the animal. Like literally controlling it, like, through like mind control technology, or maybe they found a way to do some type of form of remote control. They found some way to make it where they can, give instructions to the animal, and then the animal will attack within that cat, will fight the way they are told. Or the other possibility is that this is a representation of the idea of they trained animals to be soldiers, basically train animals to fight. Like these faces could literally been masks. Like they could have, because I know they do that. They make like those Egyptian masks, the pharaoh masks and stuff like that. They could have literally made masks, like how they do it for the coffins. They could have literally made masks, put them on animals, right? and these devices on top could be some form of communication device or whatnot, or it could be a weapon. Like there's a possibility that that could be like some type of weapon. Um, just trying to be creative of what possibilities this could have been, because that would be more plausible, right? You train an animal to fight, to attack something that is other than your race, right? Your people, and then put on some human mask just to make them even more terrifying. Like, oh shit, human animal, creature. It'll be scary. So it could be a scare tactic. Literally putting human looking a mask on animals. It's no different from a human wearing a animal mask to make them look, scary, right? It's like, oh shit, that's the head of a lion in the body of a man. That's scary, and it could have been like a scare tactic. So it could be possible. That could be a possibility that that's what it was. I noticed there's a difference between one of these. Oh no, they're both the same. It's just one is a little faded. I was gonna say that one of these uh, heads, they have a headpiece, is different from the other one, but it's like actually the other one's just a little faded, so you don't see the little sun on the top. Anyway, just some interesting thoughts, some stuff to think about. There's other things, other things in here that I don't know much about, and I'm not gonna go all into full detail. I just wanted to talk about this concept. It'd be interesting, just to get people to think and to look into these types of stuff. Like, I'm trying to see technology in the past, because one, there's a high possibility maybe these could be useful for us. Because if you I'm gonna add a little bit of Dragon Ball Z in here. If you think about capsule from the capsules from Dragon Ball Z, from the anime, right? They how they start off, essentially, these cartouches look like capsules, right? And they have stuff in it, lots of stuff. That'd be epic if ancient Egyptians had that type of technology where you can literally fit like a whole house inside a capsule. Wouldn't that be epic? Right? What if this was actually a depiction of that? Like, what if this was actually a thing? They actually had that type of technology. Or they just had the technology where they can create containers or create things that can store stuff that were like small but can expand. Like they created some type of expanding type of technology. I mean, they could just have had rubber bags or something. So when you fill them up, they expand because rubber is elastic. Or maybe they created some type of elastic type of fabric. So they had these sacks, and these are actually representations of sacks that they had, and they filled the sacks with stuff. And there's a possibility that it starts off small, but when you fill it up, it gets bigger because you're filling it with stuff, and it just like expands. That'd be useful technology to have, right? To figure out how they did that, how they created something that's the size of a wallet, but it can expand into like a backpack. That'd be cool. That could be what's being depicted here, right? We don't know until we can recreate, right? Until we can recreate what what they possibly had, we can only speculate and assume. But this is my interpretation and ideas of what we're seeing here. There's definitely lots going on here that I would like to figure out. But so far, like what I'm saying so far, it's just makes this image a lot more interesting when you think of it like that. Like, oh, this is awesome. These are some soldiers on some beast mode stuff, and air supply drops and stuff like that. And they had some form of technology that lets them, like drone technologies, so to speak, where they use kites. To do supply drops, which will make sense. I mean, it is feasible, and I mean, even a kid can learn how to, especially on YouTube, right? Can learn, as an example, can learn how to make a kite, and then hang, and then put like bags on it. But they gotta make sure the kite is strong enough to be able to support the weight, of course. But it's not impossible to figure that out, with trial and error, and be able to create kites that can, that you can use to fly long distances if you have a rope, right, and enough string to make sure it flies to where you want it to fly to, and then land it down. Just want to throw this in here before I finish the video. Is part of why I had the idea of these being kites, like a form of kite technology, was the idea that like, okay, why do they refer to them as winged sun discs, and why sun is being used? What's the idea of sun? And I was thinking like, there's a possibility that the sun disc, or the circular part of these things that you see in this image, might be either a golden disc, because gold is reflective, like it reflects, a lot of things, radio waves, but definitely reflects sunlight, so they'll be very shiny, and that might be what it is. So it's a gold disc reflecting light. So if you're flying the kite and the sun is hitting it, it will reflect the light, and you can potentially shine that light in certain directions, in whatever direction you want, especially if you're controlling the kite with two strings, which there's some depictions that give the impression that these were flown with two discs. I mean two strings, because there's some depictions of these that have like little hooks, like little cobras hooks. Later on I'll make a video where you'll see that kind of stuff. But yeah, and it'd be kind of cool to, and I was like, oh, I think that's what allowed them to control it. There's another possibility of people using them to actually fly, for them to physically fly, but that's for something else. But another thing I thought is like, what if these were actually mirrors? Gold can be reflective, but what if these were actual mirrors? So it's a combination of glass with some type of reflective metal behind it and made a mirror. So ancient Egyptians created mirrors, turned them into kites, and now they can fly them, which now gives them the ability to, one, reflect light, like a light beam, so they can shine a light somewhere, which will, in ancient times, will look really epic, right? Because it's like, oh shit, what the hell is that? What's that in the sky? Oh my god, it's controlling the sun. So then of course it'd be a winged sun disc, right? It's controlling the sun. Another possibility is that if you hold it in the right position, you might be able to, because since it's a mirror, it might see you, and vice versa. So now if you look up, especially if you have like a telescope or something, like some type of telescope, you can look at the sun disc, or the mirror I should say, the mirror kite, and then now you can see what it sees, and you could see around you, like see your surroundings, see where you're at. And this could be how they were able to get view from the sky to create a lot of the stuff they did. Might have been involved in helping them create the pyramids, because they get aerial view, which allowed them to do stuff. Like, that's what I'm thinking, like, because right now it's like, if we were to build stuff, we would use stuff like, especially if we want aerial views of a certain area to build on, we would try to use stuff like drones and stuff like that, maybe even satellite technology. So I was thinking like, these kind of seem like these might be, low tech satellite dishes, or low tech drones, or what is the lowest form of that? And I was thinking kites. Ancient Egyptians should have been able to make kites. They have wind in the desert, right? And they have the sun, so they could have made mirrors, put them on kites, flown the kites when it's windy, especially maybe when there's a light sandstorm, not a heavy sandstorm, but a light sandstorm, because obviously there's air in there, right? There's going to be wind, so they probably flown these kites, and they were able to use it. So it's just some interesting. I'll make another video when they talk specifically about the sun disk later on. I just wanted to throw this idea here because we are talking about the sun disk being used to drop off these care packages, if you want to call them, do these little aerial drops, whatever this is depicting. And that'll be the end of this video. Whenever I get a chance, I'll do the whole sun disk thing, and I have many other stuff that I've seen that's like, oh, seems like this type of technology, and I just want to make sure that I have a really good theory for them before I do those videos. That's the end of this video.